Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's edition of the Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm Brubaker.
And I'm Jessica Lee. On today's show, you'll be joining us in our conversation about this week's biggest headlines in the news. So let's start off by talking about Mr. Sean Combs.
Yes, Diddy. He is back in the news.
If you're looking for an update on the Diddy case, you're in the right place. So here are the facts. He was accused of sex trafficking, among many other crimes, and both of his bids to get out of jail have been rejected by the judges.
Yes, I've heard his most recent offer was like $50 million bail, and they even rejected that.
And the newest news here is that he's apparently not eating in jail because the food is coming to him cold and appearing moldy. And he's refused to eat. I think I heard somewhere that it was because the unit that he's in is like the bottom of the barrel kind of a unit.
So like the worst part of that prison.
Yeah, and the food
he's in
gets
what's the prison called? It's in Brooklyn, right? The
Brooklyn, yeah, it's like Brooklyn, New York, something like that.
But I heard he's also put on suicide watch. Is that correct?
You didn't. Yeah, he was on suicide watch.
Okay.
And this is like where we get into conspiracy because people were talking about how it could be another Epstein case where they fake a suicide and end up actually getting away with the crimes that he committed.
That would be crazy.
If
there's more updates on this story, we'll be sure to cover it. But in some other news, also in New York City, the UN recently held their annual meeting earlier this week, and the UN chief stated last week that the goal of this annual United Nations meeting is to, or it was born out of, this is a quote, let me backtrack a little bit, quote, born out of a cold hard fact, international challenges are moving faster than our ability to solve them, end quote. He also listed off some like key issues about the event. But are you familiar with like the United Nations at all? Or is
no, I'm not. Okay. But I think it's really cool that all the big world leaders are going to New York City to talk about the world. I mean, out of all places, New York City.
Yeah, they have like a big convention every year, I think around the same time. But yep, there's not too much more about this story specifically. They're basically just trying to work out some key issues that are happening and trying to get some like solutions going, but
solve world peace.
Yes, they always try, but it takes like all parties involved to make it happen, so it's really tricky. But they're hopefully trying, and hopefully we'll get some things going this time around.
Yes. So moving on, something else that made the headlines this week is the Marley brothers are going on tour.
I heard about this.
So Bob Marley's 5 sons are going on tour for the first time in 2 decades.
Yes.
And they're going to be performing 30 of his songs in tribute to him, and it's just going to be very fun.
It will be very fun. I'm excited. I used to listen to Bob Marley and a lot of reggae music when I was younger.
Really?
So I will be excited to hear this, yes.
Do you have a favorite song?
From Bob Marley?
I know, I hate when people ask me that.
I hate that. I know, I like a lot of his songs. I don't think I have a particular favorite.
I feel like my whole summer was Bob Marley.
Yes.
Especially after that movie that came out.
I never saw it.
You didn't see it? A lot of people were hating, but honestly, a movie's a movie. I like that movie. But yeah, they're going to be in Tampa and Miami when we're like talking about Florida. Like, in Florida, they're going to be in Tampa and Miami, so we got to pack our bags and go.
I know, I'll have to go. That'd be kind of fun. That would be a fun concert. Is it just like a concert, or is it like at a film or a music festival? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay, it's probably just a standalone concert.
Like a little tour.
All right, but we do have some other more U.S. news. Recently, the U.S. Department of Justice has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Visa. They're alleging that Visa penalizes merchants and banks who don't use the Visa payment processing technology.
Oh.
Have you heard about this at all?
I haven't heard about this.
So basically how it works is Visa earns an incremental fee from every transaction that happens, specifically debit transactions that happen on their network. So they get like a little fee. But the issue is that, or the reason why there's a lawsuit is that the Department of Justice estimates that 60% of all debit transactions are run on this network.
Oh.
And what this means is that Visa is able to charge more than they would be in a pure capitalist or pure competitive market.
So how does that affect us as
As
Visa
consumers,
users?
it doesn't affect us that much. It's basically just
Okay.
big powers, but it's a big news story in the business world right now. So we'll see what happens, see if Visa can work its way out of this. But
Well, I'm glad I'm not in the big business world.
Yeah.
And I'm not affected by this. Well, moving on, we're going
Yes.
to wrap this show up with something a little different today.
yes, we are.
As many of you probably have heard, there's a lot going on with the weather here this week. A big hurricane is coming and school is canceled or is canceled.
Yes.
And we're going to bring a special guest in the house.
Yes, we
Our
are.
weather reporter, Reese Weatherman.
And she is going to come on camera right now. Hello, Reese.
Okay, thank you guys.
So,
Enlighten us.
Enlighten us. What's going on with
some
the weather?
hurricanes.
Hurricanes.
Well, we have Hurricane H and J, Hayes and Jessica. No. Hurricane John actually hit Mexico's southern Pacific coast on Monday,
On Monday, okay.
which unfortunately killed 2 people and
Okay.
triggering landslides. So as if Mexico hasn't suffered enough from that, they're also getting Hurricane Helene, which is also coming to Florida as well, which has canceled schools.
Yes.
But we've had 2 major weather systems that are bringing heavy rain, high winds, and more to Mexico's southern Pacific coast on one side, and the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico on the other. So Florida's announced a state of emergency, and there's lots of issues of hurricane warnings for parts of Florida and Mexico. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and it's Hurricane John was a Category 3, and they're predicting Hurricane Helene to also be a Category 3 and maybe higher. But once it hits
Oh,
landfall, it's going to definitely come back from that Category 3.
And when is it supposed to hit landfall? Hurricane Helene?
Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
Yeah.
So is there anything like people can do to or what should they do to prepare for this hurricane?
Well, I mean, there's lots of great things that they can do.
Sand,
Stay indoors.
water.
Don't go out driving. There's definitely a flooding issue that we have in Florida.
Yes, there is. Actually, every year my neighborhood gets flooded whenever there's hurricanes.
Really?
Yeah, like my whole neighborhood.
Mine doesn't. Just the pond does.
Yeah,
Still
It's
don't go
really
out
hard.
driving.
yeah. Out driving is not a
drive.
good idea. And also, you should probably, if you're in an evacuation zone, you might want to just be conscientious of how bad the weather's getting. Conscientious. That's a big word for me today, isn't
It's a
it?
big word for Hayes. Okay, well,
is that all we have? Do you
Yeah.
have anything else?
Well, thank you, Reese,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
joining us.
Thank you guys for having
Of
me.
course.
And thank you guys for tuning in to Hayes and Jessica, the weekly wrap up. Make sure you check out Inside Swoop on Facebook and Instagram
Yes.
for more details about the stories we covered from our amazing reporters.
Yes, and thank you for watching this specific episode of the weekly wrap up, and we will see you next week.